Chen, so thanks so much for sending this video. I think it was very, very nice. It's nice to work that way, actually, to to make a video so I can sort of hear it beforehand, and we could just discuss the points. So how long have you been working on the piece? Tell me.
Actually, I play this piece in 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I just keep this repertoire to use like in concert and competition.
Yes.
Yeah, already 3 years actually.
And have you've played it in competitions and you've played it in concerts, and what has been your experience playing the piece? I mean, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you're progressing with the ideas and the music inside the piece?
Yeah, I feel really comfortable to play this piece on stage because it's quite comfortable with my hand now. I during past 3 years, I have an opportunity to take some masterclass so many, and I feel like personally this piece has so many different interpretation,
Right.
so many, and the perspective from many player, different teacher is very different. Was very different.
Yes.
This is this I feel a bit also from my experience when I take part in the competition. Sometimes it's work with some group of jury. Sometimes it doesn't work. Some jury have extremely different idea. For example, the manuscript and Sequoia edition
Right.
extremely different role.
Yes.
This is the reason why if I go two ways, it's not clear. So the jury may like or just okay, but if I go in a very clear way, maybe the jury or someone will like very much, someone will against the idea from Segovia, the tempo, the musical idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how about your performance of the piece when it's 3 years ago? How did you perform it, and how has that changed over time?
Changed a lot. I think at the beginning when I play this beat, I'm striving for the speed and just go technically.
Right.
Now I found like Ponce is very poetic
Yes.
and the harmony is like we have to show that. I think for me it's the first priority, not the speed, but the beauty of the harmony is like it must be shown. So I at the beginning, I feel like I play really fast. Now I slow down a bit to show more harmonic progression, but maybe I'm not sure. Maybe it's still too fast or not,
Yeah.
because yeah, I think the perspective when I look at the piece is very different from 3 years ago.
Right. Well, I asked this question because I think it's kind of important to think about where you start with the piece, where you are with the piece, what is your perception of where you can go with the piece. So those are the three perspectives, but there's also another perspective, I think, which is very, very important. And that's the perspective of the style and historical period where this piece was composed, and the reason why this piece might have been composed, So maybe we can just start the lesson with this idea of why did Ponce compose the piece. The good thing is that we have published there are published letters between Ponce and Segovia, quite a famous publication that happened in the 1990s, and they explain a lot of the context, a lot of the reasons why Segovia asked Ponce to write music. Do you know anything about this background a little bit? You probably know because you're very much into the historical part of the music, the research part.
Yes, I knew very much. Like for example, this piece wrote in 1939,
Mhm.
of course for Segovia, and I knew the publication about the letter,
Mhm.
but I forgot and I didn't read it all the detail. I read a lot from the Ponce concerto, but not this one. Yeah, and from what I know, like this edition, Sequoia changed with the agreement from Ponce also,
Mhm.
and I also learned something from the manuscript and manuscript. I think some part are different, and yeah. But if we spoke about the letter, I don't know about it so much. Just the request from Segovia to write the music. I mean, from Segovia to Ponce.
Well, let me correct you a little bit. It's the publication was made in 1930 39, I think, or maybe
Yeah,
some of the earliest recordings. But the piece was actually written a little bit before that. The piece was started. He asked for the piece in 1930, and the piece was finished in 1932. So it's a little bit earlier than that period. Although that doesn't make such a big difference. The important thing to know about this piece is that all the sonatas that were written. This was the last sonata that was written by Ponce for Segovia. So all of the pieces before were written sort of with a person in mind. For example, Segovia asked Ponce for a piece based on the work of Source. We have the Sonata Classica. We have other sonatas that were based on style. In this case, on a historical style. In this case, he asked for a sonatina not too difficult with a Spanish style, with a Spanish style. So that's why later Segovia sort of called it the Sonatina Meridional, which means, right, we have the Mediterranean Sea. And so he wanted this flavor. And he actually sent Ponce a bunch of tunes, a bunch of little songs that he knew by ear. And he wrote them out. And he sent them, for example, the second theme, right? The second theme of the first movement.
yeah, this is like yes.
That is very much, and there are others in there, which is so nice. So let's go a little bit into the performance. I think the performance is excellent, the way that you're playing, and we might not have time to discuss all the movements, this time around, but we could start with the first one. So I know that you've been performing the piece a long time. And the reason why I know that, why I could understand, is because it's a very convincing performance, It's a performance that sort of brings you in. It's a very personal performance. So usually that means that you've been playing it for a while because you've sort of lived with the piece, and the piece has sort of changed from being a piece that is just on a piece of paper into a piece that is your own piece in some ways, like a connection that you make with the composer and the music, right? So that's extremely clear. What I like very much are the colors that you're putting into the music. I think that's very, very, very beautiful. Every time I feel like, okay, well, he's been playing the same color. It's getting a little bit boring here, and then you change the color. That's very, very nice. This music is very orchestral in some ways, even though it's written for the guitar and it sounds like great guitar music. But Ponce was a pianist, as you know, right? He was a piano, so he thought mostly of piano textures, piano thing, but he was also a good orchestrator. So we hear a lot of in most of his music, including this one, it's very, very much like orchestral sounds sometimes, especially in the development of the first movement, right? So I can say that you've played the piece for a while. I can say that you have a good personal relationship with the piece. What I'm missing, though, is this kind of Spanish character sometimes, you play very often, you play one phrase, and the phrase sort of stops, and you take a very long pause
Yeah.
before going to the next section, right? And the score, if we look at the score, most of the for example, let's see if I can share the screen with you here. Can I share the screen with you? Well, maybe I can. I don't know. If you can see the score, most of the score direction says poco this, poco that. So a little bit, and I think too much exaggeration is not a good thing, especially in the first movement. If you exaggerate too much, it stops being a piece by Ponce or a piece from that period, and it sort of begins to be too much of your piece. you know. And actually, I don't think it's good for the structure of the piece in general, because sonatina has to be a little bit more tight, a little bit tighter, so that you can do a little bit more kind of rubato in the middle section. You know, I'm not so sure if it's a good idea to play, pause, play, pause. You know, those eight measure, four measure phrases. We'll talk about that in detail a little bit later. This is just a kind of general idea. You know that Spanish music, the basis for a lot of Spanish music is this kind of Phrygian, right? So the first movement has tons of that, tons of that. I mean, you can see it everywhere, right? I'm looking at this. I'm gonna check out the score here because I don't know the piece from memory. But even the beginning, it's right. That's the first phrase that we
Yeah.
have, and then all around the piece. So he shows you that the piece is going to be very Spanish. Now, the way that you're creating the interpretation for me is a little bit too much French, in the sense that it's very beautiful, it's very fragrant. There's a lot of great uh, smells, beautiful colors, and all these things, but it doesn't have the kind of rhythm that you would want in Spanish music, you know, and the rhythm that goes through all the way from the beginning of a big section to the next big section is just too much slowing down.
Yeah.
Can you just play the beginning a little bit for
You,
me?
you you mean this section,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and everywhere you sort of slow down, you know, you slow down. There are moments where you have to slow down. There are moments where rubato is you just have to, because you have to show the end of something and the beginning of something else. But it's too much, too much. Can you just play me the first page, Chin? Right. So there doesn't need to be so much rubato there. You know? Sorry. If it's too
Ah,
much, you lose the momentum of going into the next section, you know. So you have to be very careful. It's okay to do it, you know. It's okay to slow down a little bit, but too much, I think, is not such a good idea. It stops us from from feeling the momentum going into the piece, and it stops the piece from becoming very kind of Spanish piece. Can you just try one more time?
and you know any solution how to make a good like how to make the balance of this? I mean, how can I know like if it's too much or it's too less? Because now I feel like I don't know how much time that I can put, or should I go straight? Or I just spray it and let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the important thing is to think about how is one section related to the next section. So is it a huge break? You know, is it a uh, is it the end of a big section, or is it the end of a little section, or is it the end of a even a smaller section? So if it's the end of a small section, then you might use just a very short little breath mark, you know, bum 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 bum, you know. And if it's the end of a big section, bum 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 bum, like a more of an you know, allargando.
Yeah.
So just think of where you are in the structure of the piece. If it's the end of a very short little small section, just go straight through. Don't stop too much. Don't feel like you have to stop everything and then start going. You know, it's a little bit like the way I think of it is Do you drive? You drive a car, right? You drive,
Yeah, yeah, I can drive. Yeah.
right, right. So imagine if you're going through, let's say, a stop sign, a red light, a stop sign, or turn.
Yeah.
So when you're driving a car and you're coming to a stop sign, you're going to stop and you're going to wait there a long time. But that's the traffic signal telling you, okay, this is a big difference from this to this. There are other cars passing by, right? Then if you go to a stop sign, you're going to stop just a little, you're going to stop fully, and then you're going to go on. But if you're going to make a turn, you're going to slow down a little bit, but you're not going to really pause the car, right? You're just going to slow down a little bit. So think of it. If it's a big, huge section, stop the car. If it's if it's just a stop sign, don't stop too much, right? If it's just a turn, go straight through. You don't have to stop a lot, okay? So in this case, this particular section over here is more like a turn.
Yeah.
You're turning into a different part of the piece, but you're not going to stop, and it's not a big thing. Try it again, maybe just that little section, and just find the ideal sort of timing for going from this little section to the next section. In fact, I mean, it's a section which it doesn't really need to stop at all. Bum 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 bum. It's a continuation, more or less, of the same idea. Try it. Just from the pizzicato section. Yes, one more time. For example, there. Dum 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 da dum bum 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 da dum bum 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 bim bum 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 bum. No need to stop too much. No need to stop. Try one more time. Try to keep really the Spanish character, the rhythmic sense of the piece going throughout the whole section. Okay.
What do you think about the tempo? Is good or is a good tempo?
Yeah, the tempo is good. The marking is allegretto, right? So you don't. So it's not too slow. It's not too fast. It's not. Spanish. There's a perception of Spanish music being very fast and but Spanish music is actually not that fast. It's music that's rooted in dance, not like Italian music where there's a sense of rushing and floating from one place to another. A very quick sort of corrente-like corrente type of music. Here is not fast. You don't need that quick. This is not a. Additionally, what comes to mind is this is not a grand sonata that has the elements of speed and virtuosity and all these other things that you would get from a grand sonata, right? This is more of like a little sonatina. If you listen to Beethoven, for example, grand sonata, we'll have a lot of things. We'll have virtuosity, we'll have all sorts of things in there. But a sonatina by Beethoven is much more restricted, much more limited, So you don't have to show necessarily huge virtuosity, especially in this first movement. More important to show the Mediterranean character, the Spanish character, which is not necessarily fast. Try it one more time. Yeah. Now that's very good. How about this little detail? Dum, da, da, dum. See what it looks like, right? It would be nice to get a much more clear, clean triplet. A little bit like like
The instrument of flamenco dancer, right?
right,
The
exactly like castanets. So think of it right. So very, very, very clear triplet. Very crisp, clean triplet.
Should I emphasize the note in the syncopation, for example? Right?
In my opinion, no. It should be. Sorry, let me just look at the. I'm looking at you, but I should be looking at the music, right? So. I feel it more as a sforzando on the first beat.
Just have a creative bread, but not to have an accent, right?
Yeah, not too much accent.
Okay.
Try it one more
So
time. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Now, the reason why not is I think that you have so many entrances on the weak beats here. You know, da 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 da. Right. So to achieve some kind of balance, to achieve some kind of well, not balance, but some kind of what's the word? Well, balance, right? So, you know, a variety, I think, would be a better word. This